Hey guys, it's Roscoe, and on the Space Coach today I'm going to be reviewing this, The Tangled Lands, by Paolo Bacigalupi and Tobias S. Buckell. And I'm sure I've read something by Tobias S. Buckell some other time. The name is familiar. So just, if you have a look at the cover, you can see more detail. See, this is an outline of a figure. You see here the bramble, and there is the city that is one of the main locations in it. So I will just read the back to refresh our memories on what this was about. Came the last city of a once great empire clings to life. This is a world poisoned by its addiction to magic. Every time a spell is cast, toxic bramble sprouts, bursting forth from tilled fields, thrusting up from between cobblestones. A bit of magic and bramble follows until whole cities are consumed by tangling vines. Armies hack and burn, yet in a world that can't give up magic's sweet succour, the bramble can't be stopped. When Geos the alchemist discovers a potent new weapon to wield against the bramble, his invention promises Kame freedom from fear and starvation. But these are twisted times, and the bramble is not the only corruption that blights the land. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I will say there was one drawback. It's not a novel, it is a collection of 4 short stories set in that universe that I've just described. And the one that mentioned, Geos the Alchemist, that is the first story. Like I said, that was a bit of a disappointment because it doesn't follow the characters throughout the whole of the book, just in their specific story, although things get referenced in between the books. But other than that, it's fantastic. It's very much in the mould of things like, say, Foundry Side, and the City of series, was it the Divine Cities trilogy, and even things like, say, Mistborn trilogy, you know, Brandon Sanderson's fantastic trilogy. But anyway, on to this, and that first story, this alchemist, he discovers a way of essentially, let's call it like a water cannon type thing, as it were, but it dispenses the stuff, and all the bramble within a certain area dies. Even the seed pods that fall to the ground and burst open when it's burned, normally, even they're gone. The roots, the vines, everything just turns to ash, and a big area has been cleared. This obviously has got great potential in this world because they can reclaim the entire planet, basically. All of the cities in the east that were lost, the great cities of the empire, they can have all that back. Now, the guys in charge of this city came, the mayor, and there is a magician who is the most powerful one. They're very interested in this invention, so it's already been tested in secret. In it, basically, imagine it cleared, like, say, a football field on its very lowest setting. So that's how powerful it is. So they organise a demonstration that proves that it works. But the magician has got other ideas, because the intention of this device is that they can clear all this land and use magic, because they can just get rid of the bramble as they're going along. But the alchemist has got other ideas, and he asks for some modifications to this device, which the guy makes. And then when it's next tested in front of all of the assembled nobility and all that sort of stuff, when it goes off, it doesn't clear the bramble. It sets off this blue fire. It doesn't burn you, but if it touches you and you have used magic, you turn blue. And the death penalty has just been introduced for magic users. So this is a way of the magician getting rid of all of his top opponents in one go. And then, of course, everyone else who has used magic, from the lowest, who just do it to help their sick children, to the highest, who have got schemes. So he seizes control. And the alchemist is thrown in prison for a while, but he manages to escape with the servant woman, who's basically his love interest, and their daughter. Because eventually, obviously, the guy is going to get killed if he doesn't continue to cooperate with the magician. But all around the city, they've set up these braziers that are burning this thing that the guy, the potion, as it were, that had initially been set off by the bramble destroyer. So smoke billowing throughout the city, turning people blue, and they're beheaded and thrown in the river. So it becomes known as the Blue City, not the City of Death, which is what it should be. But the escape sequence is interesting because he's using the and he's made a portable version of this weapon, as it were, we'll just call it a weapon, that's easiest, to open up the bramble ahead of him while they're doing little bits of magic behind them to seal it back up again so they can't be followed. So I really like that. The next one is, I think it's called the Executioness. And basically, she is the daughter of the city executioner in the same city, but he's now too ill to actually carry out his job, so she has to do it, or they'll lose their livelihood and they'll end up poor and destitute, blah 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 blah. So it's about her, and she's a fascinating character because she does that at first execution and no one knows it's her because she's got the mask and everything on, but then she leaves the city because she just can't do that sort of stuff, can't be part of that regime, and she joins this caravan of travellers, traders, merchants, that go from city to city, a lot more difficult now that most of the cities are gone. But they've heard of this executionist because she carries this great big axe around with her. So she says, look, I just did it the one time. I'm a butcher's daughter, really. That's the sort of thing I'm good at because that's what her father does when he's not a executioner. So basically, she's still got skills, you know, she can handle heavy things and she knows how to cut things. So they give her some training in how to actually be a proper warrior. And the reason she had left that city, was because while she was doing her execution job, the city had gotten attacked by pirates and had taken her children. And so she's trying to find her children, and that's the city that they're headed to as where they're going to be. And she's determined she's getting her kids back, and there's going to be a big battle. And there is a big battle because the caravan gets attacked, most of the men get killed. The women form their own army led by her, and they march on the city, and they managed to take it over, but her children have already left on a ship sailing off. And that's basically how her story ends. The next one, it was a brother and sister, former aristocrats in one of the cities that's been overrun by bramble, now poor and destitute. And basically, the sister succumbs to the sleeping virus because when the bramble touches you, you fall asleep, you never wake up again. And basically then the worms get you. And everything else will get you. She falls prey to that, and he's trying to bring her back. So he goes into the city, into various temples, and interesting thing, quite disgusting and gross, but the people, there's still a use for people who are completely unconscious at all times, and you can imagine what that use is. They're called the soft-eyed men, the ones who go for women as well. If you like them warm and still, that's the place for you. They're the soft-eyed people. So he's trying to find some sort of cure or anything, and even find his sister because she gets taken away and put to use. And he does eventually manage to find her. And by using a piece of magic to send her hair comb to where she is. And when he tracks it down, she was being used by someone, but the comb had basically impaled him on top of her and killed him, and both of them. So she had her release and he got just punishment. So yes, that was it's really disturbing as well. But the last one was very interesting about this family of blacksmiths, and the local duke has commissioned them to make him the finest suit of armour ever, and it's the worst deal of their lives. They just know they're not going to be able to finish it properly, they're going to get killed, they're not going to get paid, and that's basically what happens. The duke's son, who the armour is for, he takes an interest in the girl, and not a healthy interest, and she is the one who ends up having to make the suit of armour. So it's all about that, and about getting revenge on the Duke's son, who is a horrible person. But yes, I won't go too much more into that to leave you something for yourselves. But yes, I wasn't expecting to talk about this book for quite some time, for quite so long, I guess. But each of the stories are very interesting. Each of them would make an excellent novel in themselves. I do wish it had been intertwined as a novel, though. Rather than just being a collection of these 4 short stories, even though they are excellent. Now, I have read, I think it's in some of the publicity blurb for this, that this is just the first volume, or first stories set in this particular universe. And it's certainly one I'd be very happy to return to, because the notion of all of this bramble covering everything and slowly coming for everything is great, especially as I've now got the means of beating it back. And I'd love to see his story continue. I'd love to see all of their stories continue. So hopefully we will get more of the Tangled Lands by these 2 guys. Like I say, I was a little disappointed at first that it was just 4 short stories rather than 1 novel, because I'm not that fussed about collections of short stories, although I do have quite a few, I guess, thinking about it. But yes, really, really good. Great universe. Like I say, definitely one that you'll be interested in. All of the characters very well written. And they were all really good stories as well. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I do recommend it to you. Please subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this content. Leave me a comment or suggestion for an upcoming topic you'd like to see discussed, or like the video.